welcome back, everybody. A Weatherford, Texas edition. And looking in the stands, there was quite a few honky-tonk women in the crowd last night.
It's honky-tonk women season. I talked to Shandon Stalls and Bronk Rumford this morning that were reporting from Woodward, Oklahoma. And Woodward, is a pretty big party.
Yep.
One of the guys, the head drivers of the cattle drive, met a lovely lady last night and had so much fun that he had her underwear in his pocket at the parade. So,
oh, my.
Bronk
Lovely.
Rumford and Shannon Stalls both did not have any underwear in their pocket but their own. So,
well, there was a lot of butts eating shorts last night.
yeah, there was.
They were up in theirs.
Yeah, you know what? I will say this about rodeos: the styles don't change over the years. If you think of all the difference in Western wear, when you get to summer, it's cut off shorts for the chicks, and like half tops with like a saying on it, like where it looks like Topo Chico, but it says Texas Chica.
But you know what? They do not build them like they they build them today like they didn't. They did not build them like that. I'm sorry. I'm a little stayed up a little late last night, but
You're saying that the chicks are hotter now.
It's bad. Like I can't imagine. Like you look in the stands, like my gosh, look at that, and they're like, and then they walks down, gets closer. I'm like, my gosh, she's 16. Like what in the world?
Yeah.
What in the world are you wearing? Stop it.
I'm hoping that my girls don't dress like that.
Livy and Lola.
Yeah, that's why I don't even think it's cool. I know that I'm getting old because when I see young girls dress like that, I'm like, where's your parents?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, what are you doing, young girl? Please don't.
Go put on some jeans.
Do you know what type of people are out there?
I did like last night.
Because I know, because I was one of those type of people.
I bet you were the cool 16-year-old. But
my
favorite last night was
with my highlighted blonde tips.
There's a guy. He was on that side of the arena. For everyone that's not here, I just pointed one way.
We're not on video today.
He had on a tank top, and he was a bigger guy, probably 20, and he had hairy arms. And he had a really hot girlfriend. He had on a tank top that said Buttweiser, and it had like a chick in a thong.
How about that new cap that everybody says?
God,
show me your butthole.
That's terrible. That is terrible. They need to cancel that. That cap needs cancel culture.
No, it doesn't.
It's terrible.
All right. Speaking of buttholes, let's get right into our guest today.
Okay, I want to introduce this. This is his second time on RümpChät. Now, we are recording for the record.
Hey, everybody look. Look
It's
right
recording.
here. It says red, and it's got a red dot, and it's at 3 minutes. So I'm just telling you, it's recording.
So, to intro our guest, he's done a lot in the Western industry, from announcing, auctioneering, the PBR, the steer roping, of course. He's like this. I say this a lot, but I mean it. The Swiss Army knife of rodeo media.
Absolutely.
The one and the only Justin McKee. If you like Justin McKee, say yeah.
Hey, welcome.
Welcome, Justin.
Thank you.
Again.
You mean welcome back?
Welcome
Yeah.
back. And you know what? We're recording. It's a great day. You're here, and I'm just so glad that we get to do this face-to-face, actually.
Yeah, I am too, and I'm so glad you hit record because for those that don't understand what we're talking about, welcome back, second time. There wasn't a first time. As far as the world's concerned, there was not a first time
Hey, you know
because
what?
Hambone forgot to hit record.
But that
and we
was
did
a great 40-minute conversation,
It was-
us three. What we
40
had.
of the best minutes of my life, and nobody will ever know.
I feel good about it.
Yeah, well, Justin's over here doing you're doing some Cowboy Channel stuff this morning. There was barrel slack that I did not wake up for. Thank you to Sandy Gwatney for coming over and knocking on my trailer door.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed up till about 3 a.m. Telling reride stories with some of the committee guys, working on
happen.
things. You know, some of their best work honestly gets done
Mm-hmm.
that late at night. You know.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
But anyway, so but Justin's over here doing some stuff and shouted out, and God, we're just so glad we finally get this opportunity. So I'm going to kind of you two kick it off
Yeah.
because you guys he's known you your whole life, so y'all take it away.
I've known Justin McKee for a very long time, and we just got to work together at Abbeville, Kansas, which was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
That looked
That
great,
was
by the
fun.
way.
Probably one of the best rodeos we've ever had.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Thank God for good weather in Abbeville. But Justin McKee is a Rumford Rodeo product. Okay, now
Dang right.
Rumford Rodeo, in a way, is kind of gone in a way. Yeah, you know, my dad, we don't have the rodeo company anymore. But as far as the rodeo business, I don't know, maybe if we're not more involved now than we ever have altogether, you know.
Sure.
Just in different aspects.
Branched out.
Yeah, we're me, Clown, and my sister, Secretary, and it has her and her husband, Bridwell Pro Rodeo, and Jerome's boys rope and tie ropes, and you know, we're Kate secretaries, and Bronco just does what Bronco does,
Yeah.
cruises around with
Yep.
Benny, and so, but we Bronco and Floyd Rumford have definitely, and I'm not saying this just because they're family, but they have got some great talent as Justin McKee, and before I'm going to let him start, I remember when I had to be 13 years old. And Justin McKee pulled into Hartner, Kansas, and he's got a brand new black Ford pickup. I mean, brand new. And he gets out, and homeboy's starched up and clean, got a hat. I'm like, I remember thinking, rodeo announcers are rich. This guy kicks ass. But take us back from the very start, because, you know, a lot of people don't remember those days, and most people don't even know about those days.
Where do you want me to start?
Kansas State University.
Okay. All right. Let me go back just a couple of steps if you really want to get into this, because Bronk Rumford had more influence over my career than anybody, and specifically on how to announce rodeos, which I'll tell you about here in a minute. But my first break, our FFA chapter put on a junior rodeo at Labette County High School. The president of the FFA chapter got to announce that rodeo. I did it. I grew up competing in all the events and auctioneering. My dad had an auction business, so I was auctioneering by the time I was 7, 8 years old, literally. So, I mean, when I was 3 or 4, that old auctioneer let me turn on that mic button, and I heard my voice over that amplification, and I was hooked. That's where I wanted to be, and fortunately, I was able to do it. And those old men in the stands, you know, they would raise their hands and yip, and just added to my fire.
Absolutely.
Right there. So anyway, back to the FFA rodeo. Announced it as a senior. Mike Samples and Jimmy Crothers, who had the stock at Abbeville, hired me to announce Erie, Kansas High School Rodeo. And as I was still competing and getting on bulls and roping, and I would go to junior rodeos or high school rodeos, and I would listen to announcers and go, that guy sucks so bad. Oh, my gosh. Let me behind the microphone. Anyway, so at Erie, Kansas, I really got to announce, and then I went to Kansas State. And that's where I met Bronco Rumford. And he was legendary. They provided the stock for K-State. Gosh, your grandpa Floyd was there for a long time before that even.
Oh,
This
yeah.
was in the mid-'90s or early 90s.
Yeah, we had that. I don't know how long, but we had that rodeo for 25, 30 years. Probably.
Generations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember helping Bronk pen some cattle and feed some cattle afterwards. And I had to announce some of the sponsors because I'd gathered some of the sponsors and introduced some of them. And Bronco said, you know, Justin, you ought to think about this announcing thing. And I said, well, I'd love to. I just don't know where to start. And he said, well, I'll help you. He said, matter of fact, if you get a little experience, I'll hire you. And that's pretty good, Bronco Rumford.
That's really
I'll
good.
hire you.
I'll hire you.
And so I met Sam Howery. He got me some amateur
Sam,
rodeo.
Sam.
Harry.
Yeah, the voice of rodeo.
The voice of the West. Sam,
the voice of the West.
with his long fingers.
I appreciate you, Justin. If I could help her here, Sam.
Let me tell you, Ham. Sorry, go ahead.
What you need to do, Hambo.
Now see. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway,
For those who know Sam, understand.
they do understand. Announced some amateur rodeos for a couple of years. Got my card. And I grew up in the same area as Clem McSpadden,
Oh,
the legendary Clem McSpadden.
no pressure.
Harry Vold did our hometown rodeo in Coffeyville, Kansas. And so I'd had that background. They signed for my card. But the big break was when we were at the CPRA finals in Andover, Kansas for Jimmy Crothers.
Is that the PKD Arena?
At the PKD
A lot
Arena.
of people remember the PKD
That's
Arena.
right. In 1992. There was a bull riders only across Wichita, across the other side of Wichita, at the Kansas Coliseum. Bull riders only. So I go with Jimmy Crothers, pick up bulls afterwards. We go up there to the Kansas Coliseum, and the after party was going on, and I literally ran smack dab into Bob Tallman.
Oh, I forgot. We got clips of Bob at the BRO. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Bob Tallman spent 45 minutes talking to me.
That's
No.
it?
Imagine that.
Well, that's good. That's all. I mean,
for me.
Oh yeah, and back in the day, that he's
kidding me?
in his heyday.
Freaking Bob Tallman is talking to me.
Did you fangirl a little bit? When
Oh, totally. Still do.
Yeah.
Still do.
Yeah.
So anyway, he invited me to his school. I went to the Cow Palace. Long story short, I got my card in 1993. I went to the convention. I handed my application to the lady who worked for the PRCA. She looked at it. She said, "Wait a minute. Your application is signed by Clem McSpadden, Harry Vold, and Bob Tallman." She said, "Look who knows you." And I'm like, "Yeah, there you go."
No big deal.
Bob Tallman told Boyd Polhamus, "This is our guy. Take him to the convention, and you introduce him to everybody he needs to know. You got any leftover rodeos? Justin's getting them." And he told Hadley that, and he told Randy Corley that. And my first year between Rumford Rodeo and Bob Tallman, I was booked solid.
Yeah.
And but Bronk Rumford taught me how to announce. Bob Tallman didn't teach me how to announce. Clem McSpadden didn't. Bronk Rumford taught me how to announce.
Well, and I tell you, when Justin in those
That's
old,
awesome.
in the old Rumford Rodeo days, there was a lot. You know, when I look back at the old sheets, just in Kansas, Hillsboro, Fredonia, Iola, Mound City, Edmond, Oklahoma, Kingfisher, Oklahoma,
Colby, Kansas.
Colby, yeah, Kearney, Nebraska,
Kansas City, Missouri.
yeah, the Benjamin Ranch. We talked about the Benjamin Ranch all the time, about how much we loved it, and but there was Cushing. That used to be one of my favorite rodeos.
Man.
I don't think they have a rodeo anymore, but
Right.
gosh, Cushing in its day was
Big deal.
amazing. And I remember being a young guy, and I feel kind of stupid about this now, but like when I was in like 8th grade, I'd go up to Justin before the perf, and I'd chase out cattle. Me and Jeff Rector, we would take old pickup chaps when we were young, and we'd clean them up, and we'd wear matching shirts, and we would chase out Tynevant cattle, and there'd always be like chicks around there. So I'd tell Justin, I'm like, "Hey, build me up here a little bit, like really give me an intro." So and I feel so dumb now, but at the time, you know, when you're 8th grade and you're chasing
it's
out
huge.
Tynevant cattle,
Yeah.
and so Justin, he always did. He's like, "Man, look at that Justin Rumford and Jeff Rector. Boy, they know what they're doing. How about those two cowboys?" Me and Jeff are like tipping our hats.
Oh, I remember Hadley saying my name at Sydney, picking up hats after the grand entry, and I thought I was like,
that's more of a shout out. That's
yeah,
more of a
suck it,
shout
Ty
out.
Murray.
You have a ride.
Hey, Hambo, that's more of a shout out than you get now. But a couple funny.
because it's true.
So when we were on the that circuit back, probably the best time in the whole world in the mid '90s, which was a magical time for everyone. We were at Kingman, Kansas. This is one of my favorite Justin McKee stories. On the way to Kingman, Kansas, I'm with I can't remember what my dad used to call him. It was Danny May, but he had some like Danny May with the dancing blue eyes. So I talked Danny May into buying me a pack of Red Man at the Arlington, Kansas convenience store. So we get to the rodeo, and I'm with Mark Miller and a couple of Bart Macbeth, and the other bronc rider, Matt Reed from old NFR bronc rider. And so I'm chewing this Red Man, and I get sick. It's hot like it was today. If you remember that, Justin, how hot it was.
Yeah.
And I remember chewing that Red Man, and I started to get sick, and you and Jeannie were like trying to nurse me back to health because you thought I just had a tummy ache, but you didn't know that I was sicker than crap. So I was literally throwing up by your trailer.
I think you threw up on my wife.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you didn't.
And my dad's like, "What's wrong?" And Jeannie's like, "He's got a tummy bug." Well, they all felt bad for the next day. I told Justin, I was like, I chewed Red Man. And the next day, he actually announced me when I got on my very first saddle bronc horse. Justin McKee was the announcer at Kingman, Kansas.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
How'd he do?
I have no idea. I didn't even know that till
Yeah, it
now.
It was so unforgettable.
223. I remember the horse.
So unforgettable.
223 Bracken.
It's like most things you do.
Shut up, Hambone. But those days were
Love you.
good, and then from then you got to go up in the announcer world to Ellensburg and Pendleton. From going from Mound City to Ellensburg, which are both great rodeos on different levels. But steer open too. We can't forget the steer open. So I remember you steer roped at rodeos you announced, and that was very much part of the early days of Justin McKee, right?
Oh yeah. I filled my permit in '95. There, just a couple of years after I got my announcer card, and competed everywhere I was announcing, and then some. Yeah, went a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're Cheyenne, Pendleton, Ellensburg. I mean, all those big rodeos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember the first time my first introduction to you was with the PBR. But then I remember the first time live was at Denver at the PBR.
Oh.
And you and Boyd announced it together, and I thought it was outstanding. I was like, because I was always Boyd and Bob, right? That's all I really knew.
Yeah.
And then I heard you guys together. I was like, damn. I thought it was awesome. But I mean, it was, I don't know what year that would have been. 2010 maybe.
Well, how
something
did
like
they-
that?
Earlier.
Or 9?
No, it would have been
no,
way
it would have been
way
7
earlier.
or 8.
Yeah.
So how was the switch, though, going from smaller rodeos to bigger rodeos? Like, when did that start happening? After how many years of announcing did you swap out the Abbeville's? Well, you didn't swap out Abbeville, but start to get the bigger events.
Well, to be quite honest, is when Phil Gardenhire died.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of them. Boyd was a lot of
telling you.
guys your age, you and Boyd. I mean, it was the same way.
Man,
If Phil hadn't have died, I mean, who knows where you guys would have been.
my life would be completely different. I mean, God bless him and rest his soul. But I'll never forget where I was and what I was doing when Boyd called me and he said, "Are you sitting down?" And he told me that Phil passed away way too early. And so I ended up going to Ellensburg. Kind of a side story to that. I was young. I mean, that happened in, 98 or 99, so I'm just 5 years into this pro rodeo announcing deal. And I go to Ellensburg, never been to Washington State that I know of. And, I mean, Ellensburg is a special place.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole town is electric. I mean, the atmosphere, I mean, the name of the town is Rodeo City, USA.
That's cool.
I had never experienced a town that large with that large of a rodeo come together all at once. I mean, it was amazing. And I'm walking up to the announcer stand the first day, and there's a sign above that announcer stand, a big sign, and the sign said, "The Phil Gardenhire Room." They adored this man.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere he was a rock star, and especially in Ellensburg. And I looked up and I saw that sign. And I'm completely scared out of my mind anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost just turned around and just left the building.
I'm out.
Oh, my gosh.
Because you were, I can't imagine.
Yeah, going in after, yeah.
Well, I mean, I can kind of imagine the ways, kind of like the time when Flint asked me to fill in for him at Decatur at the J.W. Hart bull riding because he was staying home for his daughter's high school graduation. And I went in there after Flint, and everybody hated me because it wasn't Flint. But,
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to follow a legend.
Oh, my gosh.
You know? But, I mean...
Especially under those circumstances.
Oh, I
it couldn't have
know.
been worse.
Yeah,
But he also did Pendleton. He did Colorado Springs, Abilene, Kansas.
And, that's one thing I wish that I never really got a chance to know Phil Gardenhire. Because he was never in our circle in Kansas and Oklahoma. And everybody talked so highly of him, but we were never, I don't know if I was ever, I went to Abilene with my dad steer wrestled, but that's when Harry Vold had it. But
I saw old videos him and Liesel together.
Oh, my gosh.
And I mean, that's
they're
hard
special.
hard to
that
beat
was a
that team.
chemistry like maybe we'll never see or we haven't seen.
yeah.
But what a golden voice.
Oh,
just classic,
my.
Old school, rodeo announcing, just golden vocal box.
I was really thankful that last year before he passed, we actually worked several PBRs together. I mean, side by side.
Really?
And, man, he was so good to be around. He had some changes in his life the last few years. He had some radical changes in a positive way.
Did he? Okay, so just help me out here. Like when you say classic announcer voices, have you ever heard Dr. Lynn Phillips?
Yeah.
Is it kind of like Dr.
Lynn? No, Dr. Lynn Phillips.
No, it wasn't like that.
No, it's like
'Cause I feel
Hadley
like-
Barrett or just
It
that
was well, you know what?
delivery.
It was the uniqueness. He didn't sound like anybody else.
Yeah,
and
I mean-
that's one of the things that makes announcers stand out is how unique that voice is, and that's what he had.
And I feel
yeah,
like
it was.
though,
It wasn't like like a Bobby T. Like come on. He wasn't. It just his delivery was just so vocally smooth. I don't know. You did go watch videos. I don't know.
I feel
See
like
for yourself.
I feel like today, and you probably have your thoughts on this too. From the announcer point of view, there is a lot of guys that sound exactly alike. Like, I'll tell you what, let's look at the next guy. Like there's a lot of announcers that have
That
a
speak
lot.
from their chest and not their gut.
Yeah,
Like their delivery is, it's
Like they're trying
it's,
to-
It's forced out.
like they have a different voice when they announce.
Like who?
versus-
Give us some names.
I can imagine. What was you? I remember those guys. What? You don't know those guys. But back to the announcer. I want to talk about one of my stories when I was wanting to beat up Justin McKee. I ain't saying that. I ain't talking shit. Shut up, Hambone. I was going to beat up Justin McKee one time because he pissed me off so bad.
Never happened. You were completely intimidated.
I was not. My dad talked me out of it.
Whatever.
My Bronco saved your life twice. So we, Justin, he's.
You owe Bronk more than you know.
And Justin knows this, and you know this. I've always kind of had a chip on my shoulder a little bit about rodeo announcers, and I don't mean this rude, but they're kind of pussies, and like rodeo announcers dress nice and don't work, and they show up at production meetings, and
Don't work.
Well, I mean like
Boy.
physically during the day sheets. all
Good
day.
luck getting that 10th buckle.
I'm kidding, but seriously, I'm not. So. At the
Where are you going with this?
we're
I
at
don't know. Sorry, I'm
the
coughing.
Titan Event Finals is one of my favorite events to work in Guthrie, and my dad's been a part of it since the very first. We've had stock and chased out, and
First of all,
know
before you
where
get
I'm
in,
going with this.
before you get into the story, you know that, I only have a 1% chance of whipping your ass. I know that. I mean,
There's
I know
always
that.
a chance.
so you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance,
Yeah.
and I've gone through this, I've kind of said some things over the microphone that's real. I mean, I call it as I see it. I mean, judges hate me. There's a lot of contestants that don't really like me because you got to educate the people that are watching, and if something's bad, you got to say it's
agree.
bad, right?
Correct.
And so, I mean, I've been cornered a couple times by some guys
So,
your size.
back to the ass kicking. So my dad had a rule, like at the Titan Event, it's a
No
lot.
beating up announcers.
No, it's a lot of work. Like at the Titan Event, because there's two perfs Friday, two perfs Saturday, one Sunday. But like you start on Monday, you run stock through and set pins and tie down you sort non-stop. So the rule was you couldn't be in the arena until you were 18. Like you couldn't chase out, but that's where all the glory at the Titan Event's chasing out, right?
Packed house.
Couldn't wait to chase out, and that's back when Duhan and Ole Smith and that whole group was in there. Paul Tierney was only like 50. This is years ago, and the good guys were there. And well, there's good guys now, but just in the classic days, I feel of the Titan Event. So I turned 18, and I'm so excited. This is my year. I'm going to get to be in the arena of the Lazy E chasing out Titan Event cattle. I'm pumped. We get down there. This is on spring break, so I spend my spring break. We go down there, and me and Micah Phillips, we're both 18, and like we've got our shirts ready. We've got
Your best pair of jeans. Your two pairs of jeans starched.
I spent all my money to buy brand new classic ropes because at the time, I was like, man, this is where it's at. So I had ropes, I had gloves, I was so ready. We get down there. First day we're down there, blizzard. And I don't mean like it snowed a little bit, it blizzard all week. Well, so Dad says, well, hey, Justin McKee's going to show up and help us. I'm like, cool, I like Justin McKee. He's a great guy, cool announcer. So
I own the Cavs.
Yeah.
Bronco and I, we were partnered on the Cavs for the timed event.
So
I was invested.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So he shows up, and I'm like, man, sucks to be him because the new guy the way it always was. You didn't just get to go to the arena. The new guy had to be in the back. So when
Outside.
when you're outside, you're sorting. When the cattle come out, you're sorting for the next perf or sorting which goes on and off water and all that whole, you're always sorting. So I'm like, man, that Justin's going to hate this. It's snowing and cold and raining. And so I get ready to get my horse saddled. My dad's like, hey, need to talk to you for a minute. So what's up, Dad? Actually, Justin can't be outside because if he catches a cold,
He didn't say
he
that.
did say that.
No, he didn't.
He said it would mess with his voice.
I could see Bronx saying that.
I guarantee he said that.
I'm gonna have to make up something for Justin.
Well, okay.
So
probably did.
anyhow, there I am, 18 years old, waited for 5 years to be able to chase out cattle. Justin McKee shows up, starts jeans, starts shirt, stays in the arena, chases out. There's old Justin Rumford out back in the snowstorm, just pinning team roping steers.
Thinking he's outside in the blizzard, thinking of ways that he can physically harm me.
I was
Yeah,
like,
but-
I should kick his ass.
He was a stock contractor.
That's right.
So was I, kind of.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not even close.
The worst part was that Dad made Justin stay with me and Mike, and me and Mike were mad at him. So we're staying by that. We're staying in Edmond at that cheap hotel by the Waffle
Roadway Inn.
The Roadway Inn by the Waffle House, and like we get back from the perf, and Justin's like, "Man, what a great perf, huh, guys?" We're like, "I guess." Like we went to talk to him. We were
Shut up, Justin.
like, "How was it inside?"
Why don't you go nuts a rodeo?
Then my dad pulled me aside, and he's like, I just want to tell you, like times like this is what builds character. And I'm like,
No, he probably did do that.
Sounds
Yeah.
just like Bronco.
I was like, Dad, I said, Justin doesn't get to be in the arena. Well, when you grow up someday and, by God, you can. And I didn't whip his ass, and I'm glad I didn't because now we're good friends.
Yeah, now
Because there was a 1% chance.
Yeah.
It'd been
Might not
this
been
would be
able to.
awkward if you did.
I don't know. Back then, though, I was skinnier, and Justin, he's about.
Those are back in your fighting days too.
Yeah, I was pretty good back. But, Justin was in shape. He looked good, Didn't have a bad knee yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. May have.
It started.
But, I'm so glad I didn't beat you up there because, this would make for a weird RümpChät if we start off with, hey, remember the time I kicked your ass?
Well, let's take a Gold Buckle beer break.
Gold Buckle beer
We need,
break. Here we
and
go.
then, but when we do, I just want to say that our new, they partnered with us, but it's a different type of partnership.
Yeah.
Pendleton Whiskey.
Yes.
I got into Pendleton a little bit last night. And, it's right behind you in the cabinet. Why don't you grab that? And we'll have have you ever tried their Rodeo Rita?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically a margarita with Pendleton. You ever tried that? Do you like it?
I have.
It's good. It's good. But remember, Pendleton blended Canadian whiskey, 40% alcohol volume. Pendleton Distillers, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Please drink responsibly.
It's delicious.
Barrel-aged American oak, cut with glacier-fed spring water from Oregon's Mount Hood.
Every drink
For-
of Pendleton whiskey feels like a hug from an old friend.
For an uncommonly smooth, rich taste and complex flavor, please drink responsibly. Return of the Mac. Pendleton Whiskey.
I thought they called that a bronchi donkey. That's what that is.
That's in Napoleon,
Pendleton
Texas.
margarita.
Let's make one.
Okay.
All right, we'll be
Here we
right
go.
back. Would affect me.
Yeah. Yay.
Yay. We are back. Welcome here with the, people throw around the term legendary too easily, I think.
I agree.
And so it dulls it down. The magnificent Justin McKee.
I would agree with that. when we were
Majestic.
talking with Rob Smets, when you think about a career that has got to do a lot of different stuff,
Lots.
Justin he's been there, done that, because he has. And we were just talking during our break, enjoying Gold Buckle beer and Pendleton whiskey and manscaping ourselves.
I'm glad he didn't say.
Yeah. I'm telling you, which Father's Day is coming around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't you get Dad that little ball trimmer? Mom will thank you.
The old lawnmower 4.0 is out from Manscaped.
Yeah, and especially guys who travel. It's compact. It just fits right in.
And even if you don't do your nuts, like I work on my ears and around,
Yeah, because you have very hairy ears.
Yeah. So
You have old man hairy ears.
But they look better because look, I've been manscaping them.
Wow, they do.
So it's not just Manscaped's not just for your nuts; it's for anywhere you grow hair.
Yeah, absolutely. Your arms, legs, your upper thigh,
lower back.
Yeah, make sure that lower back tattoo is really nice and visible that you have.
I wish I would have had one of those the time that we shaved the B/S brand and Mickey G's chest hair.
For those of you who don't know, Rump has a Fox Racing lower back tattoo.
I don't have that.
Yeah. No, that's Jeremy Golden.
Yeah. Jeremy Golden. All right, back to Justin McKee.
Sorry, we digress, Justin. Sorry.
So, Justin, I want you to tell a little bit because, we on the Abbeville Rodeo preview RümpChät, which has got a ton of downloads, like a lot, and it's just me and my dad and brother just talking shit and sitting in my brother's house. Whatever.
Love.
House of love. And so, Justin, you got to know my grandfather, and I miss my grandpa because, me and my dad, we might be a little crummy, but my grandpa was he was a good man, wasn't he?
He was one of the most amazing men that I have ever met. He had a huge influence on me, and he was inspiring. He got on a bareback horse every 10 years of his life, including when he was 70 years old, and I was there. Got on and rode that sucker.
He spurred a little bit.
He spurred him.
Just dink off.
He did. Yeah. He could. I can remember at the Benjamin Ranch in Kansas City. He could get up on the top rail and walk around the arena.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When he was in his
I
late
never got
60s,
the
70s.
pleasure of meeting old Floyd.
Yeah. Well, we tried to. I don't know if you listened to the Abbeville Rodeo preview RümpChät, but we were telling Bronco that he's 69, so he's got 1 year to get in shape.
Yeah,
and I've already got the bareback horse, the one that gets turned out at every rodeo, Zinger.
Every time I put on a cowboy hat, I think of Floyd Rumford.
Yeah, I thought that too, and I wish I was better about that because my grandpa wore a cowboy hat everywhere. You never saw him with a ball cap, and he expected everybody that if you worked for Rumford Rodeo back in the day, you better be wearing a cowboy hat and a long sleeve shirt if you were going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. So back when I had that new black truck that you were talking about earlier, so I pulled up to my very first Rumford Rodeo in Branson, Missouri.
I love Branson.
And I'm not there 5 seconds when Uncle Tommy shows up tapping on my window. I said, "Hey Tommy, what's going on?" "Floyd ain't gonna be very happy with you." What did I do? I mean, this is my first PRC rodeo. I'm working for Rumford Rodeo Company. I mean, I'm wanting to, really impress Floyd Rumford. I said, "What'd I do?" "You're wearing a ball cap." I said, "Well, I'm just driving." Well, sure enough, later that day, your grandpa, he come over there and put his arm around me and he said, "Hey, Justin, I'm really excited about you announcing rodeos for us and working for us most of the summer and everything. But there's one thing we do around here. And that's what we wear a cowboy hat all the time." And he said, "You never know. When we go into town to eat, when we're moving around, going to the feed store, and they see all these cowboy hats, people in town are going, 'Hey, what's going on? Is there a rodeo in town?'"
Yeah, and I agree. I need to do better about that.
Hey, I haven't wore a ball cap since.
Really?
I mean, just about. Wow. I mean, you won't see me in a short sleeve shirt. You won't
Reno
see me
Roster's
without a
the
cowboy
same
hat.
way. You never seen Reno in a ball cap ever. You might see him without a hat.
Now that you say that, you're right.
You won't see me without a hat.
Is that because you're bald?
Except for today. And we're not on video.
Yeah. But, Reno's the same way. And, because the old school guys Cotton Rosser, Floyd Rumford, Harry Vold. You never seen Harry Vold in the back pins with a cap or the ball cap on with a Hurley
Mike
hat.
Servey was that way with me when I had shoes on. And
man,
shoes.
No tennis shoes.
My grandpa, he did not like that, but my Uncle Tommy, he was like the back chute police in the old days. And so, like, my grandpa would see somebody with tennis shoes on, and Tommy'd be like, "Get out of here!" He would run them off the back of the chutes.
Which
if they didn't have,
we've got some big things coming up with involving Uncle Tommy. We may finally get Uncle Tommy on the show.
No kidding.
We've got somebody that may, because he costs money, right? He's talented.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean,
you get what you
don't
pay
you
for,
or
right?
Bob Tallman or Donnie Gay or
exactly.
our buddy Josie Jewell, who's an inside linebacker for the.
You got a sponsor stepped up to bring
we
him
may
on.
have something cooking. So Uncle Tommy, get ready.
Yeah.
Comb your hair.
It's one of my favorite personalities.
Well, the funny thing,
ever.
so we're working together at Abbeville 2 or 3 weeks ago, and so Tommy pulls Grandma's red Charger right up to the fence, because he can't get around too well. So he parks his car. They have snow fence in the corner. Am I lying here?
No.
Tommy
was
parks
there.
his car right by the fence so he can watch the rodeo, and every now and then me and Justin, we'd hear a honk. So if somebody was standing in front of Tommy's car,
I'm announcing horseback. And Justin's working the rodeo, right, as the barrel man. But if we're in the wrong spot, hey, get out of the way! Trying to watch the rodeo over here.
I said, Justin, did you hear that? He said, oh, somebody's standing in front of Uncle Tommy's car. But those days with Grandpa Floyd and Tommy was the head truck driver, and my dad ran production, and me and Haley, we I don't know, just did what me and Haley do: hang out, fight, and steal beer from the pickup man, and find dirty magazines in Uncle Tommy's semi, and just kid stuff,
So, anyway, getting back to Floyd, obviously a huge influence, but. And then I hinted on it earlier, kind of. You did the TV for the PBR for a long time.
Yeah, the PBR, when the PBR hit, when it really went big, I feel like you were right there, because I look back and I remember I couldn't wait for Sunday evenings on TNN, the PBR. And that's when, if you like Chris Shivers and Moody Blues and Hollywood.
There's still all the, Tough was riding, and Ty and Owen Washburn and Jerome and
man, those were ridiculously
all
cool.
The legends.
Those were cool days of the PBR, and you got a job offer. Now I don't know if I'm saying this right, but to pretty much say, you know what, if you want to drop your pro rodeos, we're going to give you.
You got it.
The
You're
PBR.
you're our man on TV.
Well, no, it didn't happen that way at all, because there was only a half a dozen events there their second year. So they had their first finals, which they really didn't have a season in '94. But in 1995, they had a season, but there was only 6 or 7 events. And 4 of those, I think, were at the Lazy E. Were produced by the Lazy E. They had 2 there at the Lazy E in Bull Nanza, Nashville, and Reno. And so, but here was the big break with that. So anyway, let me back up and say I didn't have to give up a lot of rodeos. I just had to work 6 or 8, which was perfect. And now that changed, but I'll never forget the phone call I got from Tough Edelman. I'm at my dad's sale barn. I mean, it was hot like today, and I'm sorting cattle, and I'm in the back, and before cell phones, and it was in 1995, and I get paged. I had a phone call, and I'll go up there, and I remember every detail of this conversation. I pick up the phone, I say, hello, and he said, hey, this is Tough Edelman. I want to talk to you about announcing some bull riding events. And I'm like, this is not Tough Edelman. I'm like, one of my buddies is pranking me, and I'm like, who is this? Come on. He says, Tough Edelman. I'm like, oh, dang. He said, can you be in Charlotte, North Carolina next weekend? He had heard me announce at Tulsa just a few weeks ago. And I met him, and he called me, and I said yes. And so I went there. Randy Corley was announcing. So anyway, that was the phone call. Tough Edelman, he started my PBR career, and it was a great mix until they started adding upwards of 20 events. Then I had to make some pretty serious decisions.
That's do you know Sydney had a PBR in 1996? Sydney, Iowa.
That. Yeah, there's a poster in the American Legion Club.
I got Cody Lambert's back number. He got jerked down and he was in the hospital, and I went in there, and this poor guy's like getting bandaged up, and here's this little kid like, I've got your bull rope. And then I carried his bull rope and his vest back behind the chutes and held it, and he was getting ready, and then he's like, well, I promised this back number to another kid, but you've been good help, and he signed his back number. I still have it at my house. Sorry.
Such a nice and gentle soul he is.
So anyway, digress, but it was just kind of crazy that even, little Sydney on a Sunday afternoon had a PBR.
Yeah.
I mean, all those guys we just had, J.W. Hart, they were all there. Anyway, so the PBR, jump forward 20 events. You had to make some tough decisions because you gave up some big rodeos.
Yeah, it was tough. The reason I chose the PBR when it came down to that is because in 2000, PBR also bought their television rights. And that's when they let Dan Miller and Donnie Gay go, and they hired me and Tuff Hedeman to do television. And George Michael from the Sports Machine. George Michael Sports Machine, which was where ESPN got all their ideas when they first began, because George Michael, he was the sports guru, but he loved bull riding. And the first event I worked on television was with Tuff and George Michael in Austin. It was live on NBC Sports, and I nearly
shit yourself. I'll say it for you.
I nearly shit myself right there. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so it was very serious, but at the same time, then we were looking at 25 and 30 events and touring pros where I was announcing some, 5 or 6 of those, and it was 35 or 6 events. So I had to let some rodeos go.
Man, but those events though, I'm not knocking the PBR now because, I like anything rodeo wise, but it was truly a different feel, like back in the day. Like it was more bull riding rather than buck one bull and then go to a bull rider spotlight and then go to this feature and then you wait 8 minutes.
It's a made for TV production.
Yeah.
But they've got their shit together. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always handled that.
I like it, but I liked it more back in the day. I like the Sunday night TNN, everybody gather around the TV and
with the old Powder River shoots.
Promised Land.
So did everybody else, and I wasn't on TNM. Everybody loved those days, and I can remember getting on an elevator after Tuff and I took over, and this couple got on. They literally they didn't say anything except you and Tuff suck on TV.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, obviously,
we want Donnie back.
But obviously it came around because again, that's where I remember, and you were the guy. That's where.
Justin was the PBR guy.
How long? Yeah, and then how long you were there? A long time.
I did TV for 10 years. I announced live events for 7, and then did TV.
Did you like
for
the
10.
TV better than announcing?
It was a tough transition because I always fed off of
Yes.
the crowd. I got my confidence. I got everything that I needed, energy-wise to go and be creative through the crowd.
But do you think that was? I mean, it helps you now being on the Cowboy Channel.
God, everything. I could not have written a better script. The first guy that I worked for in Austin for the PBR on NBC Sports was Tommy Roy. He was an executive producer for NBC Sports. He was involved with the Olympics. You know how we love seeing those Olympic features?
Yes.
That guy created those. He's worked, PGA. He's worked all the major sporting events, and he taught me so much about television, how to tell a story. But instead of having 3 minutes to tell a story, you got 15 seconds. And Tommy Roy was he was great at building a picture in somebody's mind with very few words and having an impact. And that was a great foundation. I use it every day at the Cowboy Channel.
Yeah,
today.
and so not to get weird, but at the end, then when the PBR was ready to be done, they were just all right, bye. I mean,
they dropped me like a hot rock.
What?
For no really reason, right? I mean,
Just out of the blue. No. Yeah, well, there was a reason, and not very many people know this, but they had. I worked for 2 different producers in those 10 years, and a producer is the guy who is in charge of the television show. The director's not. The producer calls all the shots, and I had a great relationship with the guy that I worked with the last 8 of those 10 years, and his name was Joe Lavero.
I know Joe.
Yep.
You guys know Joe. Did the American for years, and so we just got some chemistry. And I tell people a lot. If I said anything funny or witty, it was coming from the truck, from the TV truck. Joe Lavero's telling me something in my ear. Now here's the other side of that. If he wants a story or an angle or where the camera should be pointing, all the great ideas he had in terms of the direction the shows should go came from me. It was great. He was announcing and I was doing TV. It's just we were not physically doing that part. But anyway, they fired him. They fired him. They let him go, and they got the big muckety-muck guy from L.A. that won all the sports awards. I don't even know his name. And so I'm at the PBR finals, and this guy don't even look at me, let alone offer me a contract. And, you know, come on, you know. Every day went past, and, I mean, he blows me off, and he don't give me the time of day. Finally, at the end of the deal, he says, you know, I don't think I'm going to need you next year. I mean, that was it. Nobody knew. In fact, Cody Lambert and Ty Murray, they called me. I mean, it was a few days. I mean, I'm at home. I can tell you where I was at my ranch. I was horseback both times, and you know, I kind of stopped. We had a very serious conversation, and Cody had called one time, and then Ty had called another, and they both basically said, "Man, we did not have any idea this was going down." And they felt really bad. And I'm very close still today with Cody and Ty, and I've got a lot of respect for both of them. And that phone call meant a lot.
Absolutely.
But that was the only contact that I had from the PBR.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not that I needed anything more, because as I said, it worked out pretty good.
But you gave up so much, you know, but you also gained a lot, yes. But it's just like, you know, I hate that you put in all those years and it was just a goodbye. Not, hey, you know, we're thinking we might be making a change. Just prepare yourself. We don't know yet, you know. But maybe that's the way you do it. I don't know. Just fire and get it over with. I don't know.
Well, and you know, I got to say, Sean Gleason, he kind of reached out too and tried to get me involved a little bit, but it was it was a rough time.
Yeah.
It was a rough time.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I'm going to say this: the PBR quit paying me the last 6 or 7 years, and I was working for the networks, and it was a good deal. I mean, those networks bought the ranch that we had in Oklahoma. I mean, we just kept putting together the next place and the next place, and I had always wanted to go home and ranch anyway. I mean, isn't that every cowboy's dream, is to build that cow herd and then go home and make a living, which is what I did for 10 years up until last year. And anyway, I was ready to get back on the road.
Would you say it was it's like working for a stock contractor and as in a committee, like the networks would be committee, because we all know committees pay way better than stock contractors.
Yes, I am saying that. Way better than the PBR was paying.
Yeah, you had a ranch in Lenapaw, Oklahoma. You've got a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter.
She's so hot.
She is, and she's
My wife
she's a
is
classic beauty.
Yeah,
like she's just as hot now as she was 20 years ago.
I remember the
know.
B&W commercials you guys used to do. I see.
Yeah, that's
see, I'm a
right.
fan, man. I'm a fan.
Makes my
But
day.
so let's get back to it though. You came, but you still did Cheyenne for a long time during that
did.
because that's where my
And then they dropped me like a hot rock, and then before you know it, there was a snowball, and I got very used to getting fired.
yeah. But then
I felt like that last year when everybody was canceling rodeos.
yeah.
We're going to be back next year, bigger and better than ever.
You almost hate to answer the phone. I'm going to get fired again.
So, but then this deal kicks off, and it's kind of like
What do
no
RümpChät?
Cowboy Channel. You know what? Like San Angelo the year before, you know, they brought in the truck and all that stuff because it was just starting, you know, and those rodeos. And then last year, I don't know. I think the Cowboy Channel, I know it saved a lot of people last year.
Yeah.
The few rodeos that did go on and the coverage and what you guys did, it was so, you were needing content so bad you had us on a couple times. I mean, that's how
No doubt.
bad you guys needed content, even though we were pretty awesome.
Last year was a mad scramble.
But now, I mean, I get so many people. My father-in-law guy, he just, you know, we were watching before the rodeo yesterday. We had Western Sports Roundup on. You know, you were on, and you know what? I really like that guy right there. Does a fantastic job. You know, and a lot of people feel that way. I think that crew, And the gals, the girls, Janie and Amy, Kirby, Katie. It's just
Joel,
Joel, the camera guy.
He's so cool. I love that guy.
I think
Yeah, I do too.
It's
it's
a good bunch of
been
people.
fun to see because at the beginning, obviously it's a little, you were seasoned, but there was the rest of the staff was learning, just had to learn it. But I think that those gals do such a great job. Amy's here. Katie was here at the bull ride. She's kind of filling in here and there, and she's they're all just sweethearts. They're genuine.
They are.
Janie, she's really come a long way. Amy's been with the company since it started.
Yeah. She's a Kansas girl, by the way.
Yep. And but Janie's come a long way. I think the NFR was great, and the coverage will be great again this year. In Vegas, Vegas, baby.
I'm excited about it.
Let's do some stuff this year, Justin. Make a phone call.
All right.
But, I think
Call old Pat.
you can email Pat. I feel.
Yeah, you have just as good a chance of getting through to him as I do.
I feel like though that I've openly said it. I'm a supporter of the Cowboy Channel and RFD because we need to support agriculture and the Western way of life. There's a lot of things I don't like that, but like you said, there's a
Me
lot
too.
of stuff that
it needs to
to be banged out.
There's so much rodeo on now,
Yeah.
and everybody's got access to everything, which is great, but it also hurts.
Well,
like on the contract personnel side, we get ripped on Facebook all the time, by people with nothing better to do with their lives, and it's just they don't understand that this production, what's going on TV, is not made for TV.
Yeah.
Like the PBR is made for TV.
Yeah.
There's no Cowboy Channel truck here. It's an interview. It's one of the gals and a camera guy.
Yeah.
That's it. So
Everything else is from the
Yes.
in-house big screen
and made for the people
crew, right.
So
here.
when
And we've talked about
a
this
rodeo
enough. Our
is going
listeners
on,
probably
though.
tired of
So when a rodeo's going on, so when they throw to you in the studio, so do you just sit in the studio and watch the rodeo, or how does
Man.
that all work?
My horn catching loop has gotten
Roping the
great.
dummy.
I've got a Smarty there. I am throwing 1,000 loops a night, watching the rodeo, taking notes. Yeah, nobody knows that.
That's
awesome.
Don't tell anybody. Especially don't tell my boss.
Well, all 17 people are listening just heard it. So
But you guys were talking about losing the PBR gig and this and that. But everything I've ever done has led me to where
Yeah,
I'm
God's
at
been
today
good
with
to
the
you.
Cowboys.
God
He
has a
knows.
plan.
I'm telling you, God has, been so good to us. And I turned the job down. Here's what's crazy. Patrick Gotch called me at one time, 2 years ago and said, I've got this Cowboy Channel. He said, I want you to be the Chris Berman of the Cowboy Channel. And I'm like, well, that's fine. But, man, I've got the best office in the world looking over my ranch. And I've got, people working for me in several states running cattle. And I got cattle in the feedlots and this and that. And, I'm moving and shaking and doing the commodities thing. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. Turn it down. And then he called me a few months later and he said, hey, I just signed the PRCA to a 6-year deal. He said, nobody knows this. You're one of the first phone calls I'm making. I want you to come go to work for me. And I said, you have my attention now. The PRCA deal got my attention. And I'm
how
thankful.
powerful in a negotiation is the word no?
Yeah.
Well,
You probably just
yeah.
added another zero onto your paycheck there.
The
Good
funniest,
for you.
the funniest thing though, and Justin told me this a while back. He said it's so crazy. When you told me, he said, I've always just wanted to be at my ranch in Oklahoma. I didn't want to live in town, or I didn't want to live around a big city and work
Could
work
never
at a
imagine.
desk. And he said, here I am, happy as can be, living down in Texas, bought a new place in Texas,
Yeah, Heiko.
driving through Fort Worth, working at a desk. When
all
for
day.
years you said you didn't want to do that, and now here you
I
are.
would never. That was my worst nightmare. But here's the difference. I am telling stories that have never been told before. Pro Rodeo Tonight is my baby. And Patrick said, I'm going to give you Pro Rodeo Tonight. I want you to host it. I said, what does it look like? What do you want it to be? He said, whatever you create. And so I did. And in the early days, a year ago, up until just a few months ago, I was shooting all those stories on my iPad. I was traveling on my own dime, going to places, getting these stories, these feature stories on my own, and putting them out there on Pro Rodeo Tonight. And that is the most rewarding thing out of all the cool, fun experiences I have been able to experience. That show is what drives me through everything else, and I love it.
There's room for that. I would love that a rodeo version of 30 for 30, which is ESPN little documentaries about.
Well, just be patient.
And I'm good. I mean, they need to do I always I thought a great one would be, and maybe you've already done this, but like Cody, Fred, that match, and just and do something, from when they didn't like each other, they did like each other, and just, that would be badass. And just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's coming. And here's the thing about the Cowboy Channel. Everybody needs to just take a deep breath and realize that it's not going to happen overnight. We're not where we want to be. We're just taking baby steps
I need to be
this
like
year.
that, too, because I get pretty fired up. And I was telling you earlier how mad I get about all my crap.
I know, but a year from now, I think this thing is going to look so much different than it does today. But we can't just plunge into the deep end. I mean, we got to learn how to swim.
Well,
now.
It's gonna. It takes a budget to do that too. You got to have.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the right
Television.
cameras. A Randy Kateri, something like that.
Yeah, that guy's amazing.
Just dinged in my head.
Wow. Hopefully we'll get there. But, I mean, people don't realize you can spend as much money on a rodeo production on TV as you want to spend. I mean, you can spend $250,000 easy. You can spend $500,000 on a 2-day rodeo production if you wanted to. It's
very
expensive. Don't have the money.
Trust me. Now that again, I'm behind a desk. I'm at 8 a.m. Monday morning. I'll be in San Angelo behind a desk. But like I said, God's got a plan, and He's been great. But
we're getting there.
To wrap things up, we just can't thank you enough for taking the time this morning and allowing me to make up for not hitting record the first time. I keep staring at this little recorder. You see those red numbers?
You've been very good about that.
We even checked it.
And you know what? Everybody listening, if you want to get onto our Instagram page, I'm going to put up a post of ideas from RümpChät listeners for a cool Pro Rodeo Tonight story, because everybody has their favorites, and they're
do that.
We might find some ideas, because we get a ton of feedback on our social media about stuff that people like. I think one personally would be the Wrangler bullfights, the late days of the Wrangler bullfights. Especially we had Rob Smets on 2 weeks ago, and so he's got a career like you where everything just keeps happening, and we hope the best continues to keep happening, and maybe when you're super rich and you might own the Cowboy Channel, you hire me and Hambone for a ton of money, and we come on and work for you, and we won't whoop your ass unless you need it.
And I would appreciate, back when you guys were calling the rodeo in the studio, they would always say great things about RümpChät, so thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan. Thank you for that. But you guys are changing the game, too. I mean, you're just as big a part of what's going on in the big picture. And the big picture looks really good. There's people all over this country that want what we have. They want what we have. They may not even know it, but there's something within their DNA that's gravitating towards something that's wholesome, something that's good, people that are courageous and risk takers, and people that love America, and that's what we have in rodeo. We got everything America wants.
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
We're excited. We would love, we're going back to Cowboy Channel again. Matters. He's got this. He wants a late night show. Something to come on after the last rodeo, some a little later for the more adult crowd, which is RümpChät. We just it's that thing called money.
We've got a great team doing amazing things. That they're very creative, and we need dozens more people to really do what we want to do. I mean, and that's another reason we're taking baby steps. But in the meantime, everybody is working double shifts and overtime.
Yeah, you and Kenyon.
And we live it. I mean, oh, man. I am thinking about the Cowboy Channel every minute of every day and most of the night. I can't go to sleep because I've got ideas that we want to put into progress the next day.
That's outstanding. Well, we thank you, and on behalf of the entire Western sports world, thank you for what you guys put out there, and the time you do, because I've seen it. You and Steve, I swear you should just have a
Steve
continent.
never leaves there.
Steve, he does not even have a home. He sleeps in the back
And
room.
I really want to appreciate Steve's chest hair.
I'm Steve King. You don't forget about the American Mayor of TV.
Steve can't button his shirt. It's 2 buttons. Most is of 1, but boy, he loves to show that
Steve.
chest hair.
Love Steve.
You know what?
That
We
guy's
ought to
amazing.
send him. We ought to send him a 4.0 lawnmower.
Yeah, he could-
from Manscaped.
Let's do that.
Because if we use the code RUMPCHAT20, you can get 20% off.
Yeah. And free
Father's
shipping.
Day is coming up,
June 20th.
June 20th.
Father's Day.
Father's Day. Well, we're gonna wrap things up. Let's see. This old cowboy. You like the Marshall Tucker Band?